And welcome back to the show. January is National Slavery and Sex Trafficking Prevention Month. Now, more than 1,000 trafficking cases are reported annually in the greater New York area, and the majority of cases actually involve minors who run away from home. The Salvation Army raises awareness of the injustices of human trafficking by partnering with local organizations and coalitions, and they also help rescue and restore current victims by improving identification and prosecution of local traffickers. Here now and sharing more is the Salvation Army of Greater New York's Community Engagement Director, Jennifer Groff, and Pastor Lieutenant Clifford Douglas. And thank you so much for joining us. And Jennifer, I guess I'll begin with you as we talk about National Slavery and Sex Trafficking Prevention Month. It's not something that we want to glorify, but at the end of the day, the fact is there's so much that still affects us in this New York area.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that human trafficking is happening in their own backyard. And it's a huge problem in all of New York. Specifically, we focus our effort, which we call Pearl Essence. Pearl stands for purpose, empowered, appreciated, respected, and loved. And that's the message that we bring to the women that we meet working in the commercial sex industry, whether it's massage parlors or street prostitution. So yeah, in Brooklyn, there's a lot. We've been going out to East New York, to the women who are working on the track there. We come across about 40 women on a given night. So it's pretty pervasive.
And Lieutenant, I know the Salvation Army works very hard to partner and really deal, as I said, the identification, but then also the prosecution of such. Talk to us about the agency's role and how you've been able to provide boots on the ground service.
So basically, we seek to provide services that would help these young women realize that they're more than what they're doing. One of the reasons we recognize that some of the women are in these situations or remain in these situations is because the persons who are taking advantage of them make them feel worthless and them to feel like, this is all that they're good for. But we step in to have them recognize that they're more than this, that they're not worth less, but they're worthwhile. And in doing so, we try to provide basic needs. Like, for example, when we go out, now that it's cold, we try to provide like gloves, scarves, mittens, because, it's cold out there. And that's one of the things they would say, like, oh, we're cold. We also have services such as counseling, and we have food pantry, soup kitchen. And we just try to encourage them and to show them that there's a better way or there's other ways or means to make a living or even to look after themselves.
Yeah. Jennifer, when we talk about this number going up, we see it across the greater New York area. We're seeing young people and even, adults who are now being involved in trafficking. But you do say that sometimes when an individual runs away from home, they actually become a prime candidate for trafficking. Share with us a little bit more about what we're learning here.
For sure. So human trafficking does not discriminate, but there are certain vulnerabilities that put someone at higher risk. Engagement or experience with foster care is a huge risk factor. As you mentioned, when a youth runs away, they will be, seeking shelter, seeking companionship, support, and can easily be identified by an exploiter or trafficker. So preventing or being a support service to children who are in the high risk category is one of our main focuses.
Lieutenant, walk us into the building and share with us, because you say that you're not only doing advocacy, but you're also providing a safe place and a safe space. And so for people who come through your doors, what services are available?
So basically, when an individual comes to us, we would have like a caseworker or a counselor available who would then speak to the individual, like take them aside and first of all, ask them like how they're doing, their reason for coming to the center, and then get an overall picture of what is happening. And from there, we can then indicate to them the various services we have. As I said to you before, we have food pantry, we have soup kitchen, there's counseling and praying sessions, And for other services that we ourselves may not be able to provide to them, if we know that this is something they really need, we outsource these services and we would direct them to agencies that will provide those services. But we also provide a warm place, especially now in the winter, a warm place for them to relax, enjoy the day. In some instances, we would have to provide shelter for them for uh, a certain period of time.
When we talk about trafficking, as we know it, Jennifer, we know that there are many people who are still out there on the prowl, and young people as well as adults are being taken up daily as we speak right now.
Mhm.
What can we do, and what's being done in terms of really trying to put a foothold on this and really try to disrupt the process here?
That's a great question. So a lot of agencies and service providers, such as the Salvation Army, meet in their local communities to figure out where the gaps in services are and how we can make up those missing services and programs, because it really takes a collaborative effort. Each and every organization has its strengths and its resources to be able to really have an impact, because it's estimated over 400,000 people are trafficked in the country. I think you mentioned there's, over around 1,000 cases reported in New York. So we just have to deal with the underlying factors, which are very difficult to confront. It's poverty, it's homelessness, all these things. So we have to come in, offer first step services, shelter. I mean, the one thing that we most need is more shelter. The Salvation Army has tried to fill that need with an emergency housing program for 1 week that women identified through the FBI can come stay with us, get respite, have meals, case management, so that hopefully this will be a transitional step for them to go into longer term housing and lead the life.
We say that when we talk about coming through those doors, it's important to come through the doors and be able to receive services and to have a place that you can actually unpack and let yourself go. But we know that when people come back there, they're not really letting themselves go. It takes a minute to really develop trust, especially when you've been violated, you've been abused, and you're really not certain about who to trust. Talk to me a little bit about your staff and how your staff really approaches those persons who are coming there, because there's an old saying that you have to connect before you can correct. And so talk a little bit about how you establish that connection in order to bring about this change in their lives.
Well, first and foremost, as you would know, when you approach an individual, the first thing you'd want to do is be welcoming. Have a bright, pleasant smile. Hey, how are you? How are you doing? And then you would just look around. There are signs that you can observe. Some people might be nervous. They might be scared. You might see bruises on their hands. But then you just ask, like, how can I help you? Like, how can I be of assistance to you today? And most of our staff, well, I should say all of our staff, are trained that when we see these signs, and even for any person coming through our door, to be welcoming, to be receptive, to allow individuals to know that the space that they're in is safe. They don't have to worry the information that they share will not be shared with anyone. And it begins from there, and then building a conversation. How's your day going? How are you doing? How can we help you? Do you have family? Is there a need that we can address at this time? And it goes on from there. A lot of times too, if you ask, can I pray with you? Is this something that I can pray for, pray with you for? And those little gestures open up the doors for us to have deeper conversations with individuals. Sometimes even offering them, are you thirsty? Would you like to have a drink of water? Do you need something to eat? Those kind of gestures in themselves open up the doors for us to have deeper conversations and to get to the root of what's affecting individuals as they come through our doors.
Yeah. So, Jennifer, how hard is it when you're dealing with a person who's been in trafficking, and that road to a new life? It seems so easy. We could always talk about it. We could always say it, but for that individual that's a lived experience, it's not easy at all. So what do you do in terms of resources and things to help somebody go from a life of being a sex trafficking, human trafficking victim to now a place that they can have this like new life and start all over and have what we call this day a sense of normalcy? Amidst COVID, we can't say anything's normal, but sense of normalcy.
Yeah, well, it is very hard, and we face a lot of challenges. If you look at the women who are working in illicit massage businesses, many of them are Chinese nationals who came here on a visa, and that visa may have expired, and they have a real fear of deportation. They have a fear of you know,
Retaliation.
safety of their family back home who paid a broker for them to be able to come here and to have the American dream, and it all gets twisted into a nightmare. So you begin to have to deal with really tough issues like immigration. Unfortunately, there's T visas out there for women who have been trafficked to get a proper visa to stay here and work here. And dealing with those women are probably one of the hardest to bring out of the life that they're in. And then if you look at women who are in street prostitution or even strip clubs, you're dealing usually with a lot of underlying trauma. Many of these women have had sexual abuse. Many of them have been trading sex for survival for some time, and that person who's exploited them may be a boyfriend, so they have a trauma bond with them, with that person, and breaking that takes time. It takes building rapport. It takes replacing the needs that are being met by. We try to do that by shelter, food, childcare, anything we can to bring them out of that unsafe environment and lean on us as a friend, really, to help guide them. But the liberation is within them. They have to make that choice. It's not easy.
Yeah. So, Lieutenant, where do you go from here? I mean, this is the month of awareness, but I know the work still continues.
Yes. Uh, the work of the Salvation Army is never done. We're going 24/7 throughout the year. But there's a lot of things that can be done, and we would encourage those who are listening, those who are out there. If you see a sign, if you notice something, be vigilant. If you see something, say something. And not only that, there's so many ways in which you can partner with the Salvation Army to bring awareness to these situations and also to support. You can go to our website, salvationarmy.org, and there's so many ways in which you can donate or volunteer and partner with us so that we can together make our brothers, our sisters, our neighbors, our friends safe and happy.
Yeah. And so, Jennifer, as we are getting ready to close down the segment in a few minutes, I want to take the time to have people who want to ask the question about knowing someone that's involved in trafficking. What can you do if you know someone that's involved in trafficking? Because it's not as easy as just pulling somebody out.
No, absolutely not. And I would really direct anyone to the national hotline. And that number is 888-373-7888. I'll just say that a little more slowly because I know I talk fast, but 888-373-7888. It's anonymous, survivors, victims, family members, friends, anyone can call that number. And it's really, it could really help.
Yeah, yeah. Lieutenant, for yourself and your staff, is there any way the public can assist?
Yes, we're always looking for volunteers, donation towards buying supplies. And as I said, they can visit our website. And from there, there's tons of ways in which they can support, donate, be our backbone in the community.
Yeah, want to let you guys know that they both, though I should say, thank you for the work of really dealing with the issue that is very prevalent in our community, but unfortunately, so many people don't even recognize the magnitude of what's going on when it comes to trafficking, and sometimes it can be going on right before us, and we in New York can turn that oblivious eye, not knowing. But certainly, thank you for the work that you're doing, Jennifer and Lieutenant Clifford Douglas, for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.